Namaste. So tonight I'm going to read Book 9, Chapter 34, on the description of the various hells in the Maha Devi Bhagavatam. Om Vakratuna Mahakaya Koti Sura. Hariam Tatsat. Dharma Raja Yama said, O fair one, if in this Bharata any murderer, merciless and fierce, kills any man out of greed for money, he goes and miserably dwells in the Asipatra hell for 14 Indra's life periods. And if that murderer kills a Brahmana, he lives in that hell for 100 Manvantaras. While in hell, his body becomes fiercely cut and wounded by swords. There my messengers chastise him and beat him, and he cries aloud and passes his time without any food. Then he becomes born for 100 years as a mantana insect, 400 births as a boar, for 7 births as a cock, for 7 births as a fox, for 7 births as a tiger, for 3 births as a wolf, for 7 births as a frog, then as a buffalo when he becomes freed of his sins of murders. If anybody sets fire to a city or a village, he will have to live in Kusuradara Kunda for 3 yugas with his body severed. Then he becomes a preta, disembodied spirit, and travels over the whole earth, being burnt up with fire. For 7 births, he eats unclean and unholy food and spends his time as a pigeon. Then for 7 births, he becomes diseased with a severe colic pain. For 7 births as a leper, when ultimately he gets a pure human body. If anybody whispers in one's ear another's calumny, and thus glorifies himself and abuses and vilifies the devas and brahmanas, he goes and remains in Suchikunda for 3 yugas, and he is pierced there by needles. Then he becomes a scorpion for 7 births, a serpent for 7 births, and an insect, Bhasmakita, for 7 births. Then he gets a diseased human body. When at last he becomes purified, if anybody breaks into another's house and steals away all the household articles, cows, goats, and buffaloes, he goes to Goka Mukha Kunda, where feces are like cow hooves. There, beaten by servants for 3 yugas. Goka is Goksura, hoof of a cow. Then for 7 births he becomes a diseased cow, for 3 births a sheep, for 3 births a goat, and finally he becomes a man. But if this man birth excuse me. But in this man birth, he is born first as diseased, poor, deprived of wife and friends, and a repenting person when ultimately he is freed of his sin. If anybody steals any ordinary thing, he goes to Nakra Mukha Kunda and lives there for 3 years, greatly tormented by my messengers. Next, for 7 births, he becomes a diseased ox. Then he attains a very diseased man birth, and ultimately he is freed of his sins. Such are the horrible results. If anybody kills a cow, elephant, horse, or cuts a tree, he goes to Gaja Damsa Kunda for 3 yugas. There he is punished by my messengers freely by the teeth of elephants. Then he attains 3 elephants' births, 3 horse births. Then he becomes born as a cow, and ultimately he is born a mlecha when he becomes pure. If anybody obstructs any thirsty cow from drinking water, he goes to Krimi Kunda and Gomukha Kunda filled with hot water and lives there for 1 manvantara. Next, when he attains a human birth, he owns not any cattle nor any wealth. Rather, he is born as a man, very much diseased, in low caste for 7 births. When he becomes freed, if anybody being born in Bharata kills cows, Brahmins, women, beggars, causes abortions, or goes to those not fit to be gone into, he lives in the Kumbhipaka hell for 14 Indra life periods. There he is pulverized always by my messengers. He is made to fall sometimes in fire, sometimes over thorns, sometimes in hot oil, sometimes in hot water, sometimes in molten iron or copper. That great sinner gets 1,000 vulture births, 100 boar births, 7 crow births, and 7 serpent births. He then becomes worms and of feces for 60,000 years, thus traveling frequently in ox births. He is at last becomes born as a very poor leper. Savitri said, O Bhagavan, what is, according to the Sastras, Brahmahatya, murdering a Brahmin, and Gohatya, killing a cow, who are called agamyas, women unfit to be approached, who are designated as a void of sandhya, daily worship of the twice-born caste, who can be called uninitiated, who are said to take pratigrahas, gifts in a tirat. What are the characteristics of a real Gramayaji, village priest, Divala, Brahmana of an inferior order, who subsists upon the offerings made to the images which he attends, the cook of a Sudra, of one who is infatuated, Pramata, and the Vrisa Lipati, one who has married an unmarried girl, 12 years old, in whom menstruation has commenced, a barren woman. Kindly describe all these to me. Dharmarajan said, O fair Savitri, if anybody makes a distinction between Krishna and his image, or between any deva and his image, between Shiva and his phallic emblem, between the sun and the stone, Surya Kanta, a precious stone of a bright and glittering color, between Ganesha and Durga, he is said to be guilty of the sin Brahmahatya. If anybody makes any difference, superiority or inferiority between his own Ishta Devata, his deity, his spiritual teacher, his natural father and mother, is certainly involved in the sin of Brahmahatya. He who shows any difference, superiority or inferiority between the devotees of Vishnu and those of other devas is said to commit Brahmahatya. He who makes any difference in matters of respect between the waters of the feet of any Brahmana and those of Salikrama stone is said to commit Brahmahatya. The difference between the offerings to Hari and Hara leads to Brahmahatya. He who shows any difference between Krishna, who is verily the God of gods, the cause of all causes, the origin of all, who is worshipped by all the devas, who is the self of all, who is attributeless and without a second, yet who is by his magic powers assumes many forms, and who is Ishana, is said to commit indeed the Brahmahatya. If any Vaishnava, a devotee of Vishnu, abuses and envies a Shakta, a devotee of Shakti, he commits Brahmahatya. He who does not worship according to the Vedas, the Pitris and the Devas, or prohibits others in doing so, commits Brahmahatya. He who abuses Harisikesa, who is the highest of the holiest things, who is knowledge and bliss, and who is eternal, who is the only God to be served by the Devas and Vaishnavas, and those who are worshippers of his mantra, and those who do not themselves, and those who do not worship themselves are said to commit Brahmahatya. He who abuses and vilifies Mula Prakriti Maha Devi, who is of the nature of causal Brahma, Karana Brahma, who is all power and the mother of all, who is worshipped by all, and who is of the nature of all the Devas and the cause of all causes, who is Adya Shakti Bhagavati, is said to commit Brahmahatya. He who does not observe the holy Shri Krishna Janamastami, Shri Ramanavami, Shivaratri, and Ekadasi, happening on Sunday, and 5 other holy Parvanas, festivals, commits Brahmahatya, is considered more sinful than a Chandala. He who in this land of Bharata digs earth on the day of Ambuvachi, or makes water, etc., in the waters of the tanks, is involved in the sin of Brahmahatya. He who does not support his spiritual teacher, mother, father, chaste wife, son and daughter, though they are faultless, commits Brahmahatya. He whose marriage does not take place during his whole lifetime, who does not see the face of his son, does not cherish devotion to Hari, who eats things unoffered to Sri Hari, who never worshipped throughout his life Vishnu, or an earthen symbol of Shiva, verily commits Brahmahatya. O fair one, now I will recite the characteristics according to the Sastras of Gohatya, killing a cow. Listen, if anybody does not prohibit one, seeing one to beat a cow, or if he goes between a cow and a Brahmin, he is involved in the sin of Gohatya. If any illiterate Brahmin carrying an ox daily beats with a stick the cows, certainly he commits the Gohatya. If anybody gives the remains of another's meal to a cow to eat, or feeds a Brahmin who carries, rather moves or drives cows and oxen, or eats himself the food of such a Brahmin driver, he commits Gohatya. Those who do sacrifices of the husband of a barren woman, Vrisali, or eat his food, commit sin equal to 100 Gohatyas. There is no doubt in this. Those who touch fire with their feet, beat the cows, or enter the temple bathing but not washing their feet, commit Gohatya. Those who eat without washing their feet, or those who sleep with their feet wetted with water, and those who eat just after the sun has risen, commit Gohatya. Those who eat the food of women without husbands or sons, or the food of pimps and pampers of those who do not perform their sandhyas thrice, commit Gohatya. If any woman makes any difference between her husband and the Devata, or chastises and uses harsh words to her husband, she commits Gohatya. If anybody destroys cows, pasture land, tanks, or land for forts, and cultivates their grains, he commits Gohatya. He who does not do prayaschita, expiation, atonement for the expiation of the sin of Gohatya done by his son, for fear of his son's life, commits the sin himself. If any trouble arises in the state or from the devas, and if any master does not protect then his own cows, rather torments them, he is said to commit the Gohatya. If any jiva oversteps the image of a deva, fire, water, offerings to a god, or food, he commits the great sin, Brahmahatya. When a guest comes, if the master of the house always says, "There is nothing, nothing with me, no, no," and if he be a liar, cheat, and an abuser of the devas, he commits the above sin. O fair one, whoever, seeing his spiritual teacher and a Brahmin, does not bow down and make respectful obeisance to them, commits Gohatya. If any Brahmin, out of sheer anger, does not utter blessings to a man who bows down, or does not impart knowledge to a student, he commits Gohatya. O fair one, thus I have described to you the characteristics approved by Sastras of cow killing, Gohatya, and murdering a Brahmin, Brahmahatya. Now here which women are agamyas, not fit to be approached, and those which are fit to be approached, gamyas. One's own wife is fit to be approached, gamya, and all other women are agamyas. So the Pandits versed in the Vedas declare, this is a general remark. Now hear everything in particular. O chaste one, the Brahmin wives of Sudras or the Sudra wives of Brahmanas are Atyagamyas, very unfit to be approached, and blamable both in the Vedas and in the society. A Sudra going to a Brahmini woman commits 100 Brahmahatyas. So a Brahmana woman going to a Sudra goes to the Kumbhipaka hell, as a Sudra should avoid a Brahmini. So a Brahmana should avoid a Sudra woman. A Brahmana going to a Sudra woman is recognized a Brisalipati, one who has married an unmarried girl, 12 years old, in whom menstruation has commenced. So much so that the Brahmana is considered an outcast and the vilest of the Chandalas. The offerings of Pindas by him are considered as feces, and water offered by him is considered as urine. Nowhere, whether in the Devaloka or in the Pitriloka, his offered Pindas and water are accepted. Whatever religious merits he has acquired by worshipping the Devas and practicing austerities for koti births, he loses all at once by the greed of enjoying the Sudra woman. There's no doubt in this. A Brahmin, if he drinks wine, is considered as the husband of a Vrisali eating feces. And if he be a Vaishnava, a devotee of Vishnu, his body must be branded with the marks of a Tapta Mudra, hot seal. And if he be a Shaiva, his body is to be branded with the Tapta Sula, hot trident. The wife of a spiritual teacher, the wife of a king, stepmother, daughter, son's wife, mother-in-law, sister of the same father and mother, the wife of one's brother, of the same father and mother, the wife of a maternal uncle, the father's mother, mother's mother, the mother's sister, sisters, the brother's daughter, the female disciple, the disciple's wife, the wife of the sister's son, the wife of the brother's son. These all are mentioned by Brahma as Atyagamyas, very unfit to be approached. The people are hereby warned. If anybody overpowered by passion goes to these Atyagamya women, he becomes the vilest of men. The Vedas consider him as if going to his mother, and he commits 100 Brahmahatya sins. These have no right to do any actions. They are not to be touched by any. They are blamed in the Vedas and the society everywhere. Ultimately, they go to the dreadful Kumbhipaka hells. O fair one, he who performs sandhyas wrongly, or reads it wrongly, or does not perform at all the 3 sandhyas daily, is called as void of sandhya. He is said to remain uninitiated, who does not out of sheer vanity receive any mantra, whether he be a Vaishnavite, Shaivite, or sun worshipper, or the Ganesha worshipper, where there is the running stream of the Ganges, lands on either side, 4 hands in width, are said to be the womb of the Ganges. Ganga Garbha. Bhagavan Narayana incessantly dwells there. This is called the Narayana Kshetra. One who goes to Vishnupada, who dies in such a place, Varanasi, Benares, Vadari, the confluence of the Ganges with the ocean, Ganga Sagara, Puskara, Harihara Kshetra in Bihar near Chapra, Prabhasa, Kamarupa, Hardwar, Kidara, Matripura, the banks of the river Saraswati, the holy land Brindavan, Godavari, Kausiki, Triveni, Allahabad, and the Himalayas are all famous places of pilgrimages. Those who willingly accept gifts in these sacred places are said to be Tirtha Pratigrahis, the acceptors of the gifts of the Tirtha. These Tirtha Pratigrahis go in the end to Kumbhipaka hell. The Brahmana who acts as priest to the Sudras is called Sudra Yaji. The village priests are called Grama Yajis. Those who subsist on the offerings made to the gods are called Devalas. The cooks of the Sudras are called Suprakaras. Those who are void of Sandhya Bandhanams are called Pramatas, mad. O Badre, these are the marks of the Vrasalipatis that I have now enumerated. These are the great sinners, Maha Patakas. They go ultimately to the Kumbhipaka hell. O fair one, I now state by and by the other kundas, hells, when other people go. Listen. Here ends the 34th chapter of the 9th book on the description of the various hells in the Mahapuranam Srimad Devi Bhagavatam of 18,000 verses by Maharishi Ved Vyasa. Om Jayanti Mangala Kali Bhadra Kali Kapari.